Welcome back to Real Estate Mindset. Today's video is gonna be absolutely bonkers. Now, the data is in, and today we're gonna discuss some shocking trends and some massive events that are about to happen in the Florida housing market. And today I'm bringing on a special guest, someone that was in the hurricane on ground zero, knows exactly what's going on with Florida, none other than our great friend, Steve Daria. Sir, how are you, brother? And it's nice to see you, and I'm glad you're safe, and I'm glad you're okay, brother.
Travis, I appreciate you having me on, man. Thank you. It's been tiresome to say the least, but we're safe, and we appreciate all the support that has come out to Southwest Florida, and we're grateful for everybody. So we're good. Thanks for having me on the show.
Well, Steve, I just want you to know, man, I had actually a few subscribers ask specifically how you're doing. They're like, Travis, how's Steve doing? How's your buddy doing? So, you got, your love, Steve. So we want you back on YouTube, brother. I know you've only been able to do a couple of videos, but we miss you. Obviously, we're in a group together. We got Scott, we got Todd, Orlando, Michael. So we miss you, bro. Take your time, but we hope to have you back. Now, just for the viewers, brother, what we're going to do today, guys, is I'm going to ask Steve 3 questions, essentially what's going on in the Florida housing market. I'm going to ask him some questions about insurance companies, whether or not he thinks they're going to pay out claims from the hurricane, and overall what he thinks it's going to take to rebuild and how long that process will take. Now, Steve, before we begin, brother, do you have anything you want to say?
No, I mean, besides, thank you to all the first responders out here in Southwest Florida and those who lost their lives. I mean, everybody's in our prayers. I mean, it's been very trying times out here for a lot of people. It's a lot of devastation, a lot of sadness. But you know what? A week and a half later or whatever it is, the morale is up, and a lot of people are out here helping to build Southwest Florida back, and it's good to see. It's good to see for sure.
Yeah, brother. And I told you I was in Hurricane Harvey, man. I was part of all of the rescue efforts. I mean, I was like one of the first people in the water pulling people out. And, I want to also say big shout out to the volunteers. First responders, huge shout out, but the volunteers, the love and the unity that I felt from the actual volunteers like you, like I, dude, special props to you and special props to everyone else that are selfishly helping other people. So, you get that part, right? You get that part. Unfortunately, the rebuilding sucks, man. But, real quick, I just want to, before we really get started, Steve, if you guys can like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, shoot us a comment. And then after that, guys, go on over to Steve's channel, Steve Daria. This man is a genius. He gives you clean and valuable information about real estate. So please, guys, go to his channel, like it. You guys know that I am a fan of content creators on YouTube. I watch all of Steve's videos, and I know that you guys will like it. So other than that, Steve, let's get started right now, okay? So first question, man, is just, do the best you can, but essentially, what impact do you think the hurricane had on the Florida housing market, exactly? And then how long do you think, if at all, it will take to rebound and get back to where it was before the hurricane hit?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm a big believer in like the yin yang. For every devastation, there's an equal amount of good that's out there. So I think that there's a lot of people who have been displaced. So that has led into people going into hotels, and maybe a lot of hotels that weren't doing so well, and so forth. But the real estate market, I mean, there's the barrier islands like Fort Myers Beach. It's complete. It looks like a bomb dropped out there. So you have houses that are completely leveled. And I did a short video about this, but I think that we'll, like, on that island, we're going to see probably a lot of vacant lots where houses once stood. And there's other areas in Fort Myers as well as Naples that were in high flood zones, including where we're at. And, we lost a couple of vehicles, which is nothing compared to what happened to a lot of people. There's going to be a certain amount of people that are just not going to want to rebuild. They're probably going to take insurance money. Some people don't have any insurance as well. and they'll probably list their properties and get out. We're starting to see trickle into the market hurricane damage properties now, but not on the barrier islands because there's very limited access. Actually, after this, Jolie and I are headed out to help an old neighbor out there on the island. But for a while, it was just, residents only, and you couldn't gain access because you couldn't even drive out there. It was so bad. But it's going to take years. It's going to take years to rebuild. Again, other parts of Southwest Florida are doing okay. Parts of Naples is doing fine. But then you have certain pockets of neighborhoods that completely, 90-95% of them completely went underwater, and it's gonna take some time to rebuild and to get the necessary contractors out here as well. There's a lot of dirt bags that have been like vultures out here trying to scam people. There's been a certain level of looting too. I don't really want to get into that, but it's just going to take it's going to take years to get back to where we're at. And then, if we compound that with, recessionary period right now, and people are strained right now with expenses and finances. So it's kind of a bad storm.
Yeah, and Steve, I hear a lot of people that are saying that there's and I think you mentioned this a little bit, that there are people rushing into Florida right now to try to buy these hurricane homes because they think that it's going to be a good deal. So in the kind of the same line of topic that we're on, can you just talk into the reality of purchasing a hurricane home, the mold, the condition of the property, and then also can you touch in on the fact that all of those homes, more than likely that got wiped out, they're going to be a lot more expensive to own because now there's insurance claims on the property. It's probably new flood zones created. So can you talk on what it's like to invest in a hurricane home?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the investors that do it correctly, where they bring it down to the studs and they do the proper remediation, they're going to do well. There's going to be other investors that are out here that are just going to scab it up and put it out on the market. And I'm fearful for the buyers of some of those homes, because a lot of those homes, they don't know what they're buying into. I did a video yesterday on this where I just was kind of warning people, like, you got to be careful of who you're buying from, and you need that, when an investor brings that thing down to the studs, you need a third party to come in and certify that it's been remediated, it's free of mold, it's free of any kind of moisture, and then they can start to rebuild it. And I know that there's going to be, some investors that are going to come in and provide a crap product, and people are going to get caught. It was kind of like the last crash. Remember defective drywall or Chinese drywall? We had a big surge of that in Southwest Florida, where there was such a demand for drywall. So they were using all this tainted drywall. But investors bought these houses, and they would literally rip out like half the defective drywall and then keep the ceilings of defective drywall. So there was no accountability there, and people got screwed when they rebought houses that were so-called remediated. So I'm a little nervous for that.
So I mean, there's going to be, you're going to need to do multiple levels of inspections, but even certain inspections aren't going to pick up certain defects. Most inspections are good, but when we're talking about like water damage, and mold and things like that, a lot of that stuff is hard to find. So can you touch on too, and then we'll segue into question two, Steve, just a little bit about, how once a property is affected by a flood or a natural disaster, it becomes traditionally more expensive to own that because the insurance premiums go up. Is that what you see as well?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I think we're going to talk more about this, but the insurance companies in the state of Florida were weak at the knees as is. So this is only going to compound the problem, and it's going to be more expensive to live in Florida. And I heard this from somebody else, and somebody said it's kind of like the paradise tax, where you're going to have natural disasters come in if you want to live in paradise, and the cost of it is higher. So if you want to live in a place like Florida, and especially tropical Florida, it's kind of the price that you have to pay,
Yeah, so that leads me to my second question, Steve, which essentially is, what effect do you think the hurricane had on the insurance companies? You mentioned it just a minute ago that the insurance companies, even before the hurricane, were already trying to leave Florida. They're already weak at the knees. So, can you touch in on what you think is going to happen moving forward? Do you fear that some of these insurance companies will not pay out the claims? Some of them will fold. Can you touch on the insurance crisis out there in Florida, Steve? Would you do that, please?
Yeah. Well, we have Citizens, which is like the last resort, and that Citizens was set up to never become insolvent. Um, but and they claim that they have plenty of money and they would take over other insurance companies that are insolvent. But if we had another natural disaster happen right now in Florida,
Yeah,
I,
yeah,
I don't know. The problem with insurance companies over the years is just the contractors basically teamed up with attorneys, and these attorneys were suing insurance companies to get people basically new roofs, and that's what
right, right, right.
caused the issues that we're in today. So that whole system needs to be reformed in some fashion, because people are getting free roofs when they didn't
Yeah,
necessarily need or
yeah.
deserve it.
So
um,
the same thing happens in Texas, bro. Like when we have a hailstorm, the whole neighborhood, oh, free roof. And they have
yeah
contractors that go door to door and say, hey, your neighbor's insurance company denied you, but I know what to say to your insurance company to get them to approve a new roof. So it's a problem on both sides of the equation. You got people that are, borderline insurance fraud, you
yeah
know, that's a
exactly.
problem.
And then you have flood, which is completely separate from wind and hurricane. That's where a lot of people are kind of screwed in Southwest Florida. I think CoreLogic came out and it was between 8 and 18 billion in insured losses, and then uninsured it was roughly between 10 and 17 billion in uninsured losses. There's a lot of people in Southwest Florida that just didn't have flood insurance. So when they make their claim to the regular insurance company for hurricane, that carrier is looking at and saying, well, you know what, this is water coming into your house, this has nothing to do with
Yeah,
us.
right.
It's that's flood, you have to deal with your flood. And then
Yeah,
that
yeah.
person's like, well, I have no flood insurance. So there's going to be discrepancies there, and there's going to be battles there, unfortunately, because it's kind of hearsay, like who's right, who's wrong in terms of how the damage got caused. Did that window blow in from a hurricane, or was it the massive floodwaters and waves hitting the window and flooding properties out? So we're seeing a lot more and more of it. The houses that we've went and looked at that were on the market for sale, they're selling them very inexpensively, and they're selling quickly too. So there's investors definitely coming in and scooping these up, but a lot of people just don't have flood insurance.
And here's that information you were referencing right here, Steve. Can you see that okay?
Yeah.
Dude, I love my new video switcher. I hope people don't think I'm like conceited. I just love this stuff, dude. So where did I go? Right? Where am I at? I can share my screen. But yeah, man, I mean, it says right here, CoreLogic estimates 41 billion to 70 billion in insured and uninsured wind and flood losses. I mean, that, man, I mean, that's massive, and,
Yeah.
and obviously, the problem, Steve, is a lot of people don't realize that their normal home insurance policy does not come with flood insurance. Most of the time you have to get a separate flood insurance policy. And here's the other problem. Normally the lenders will require that their collateral or the house be properly insured before they lend money on the collateral, right?
Yeah.
But the problem is, if the house isn't already in a flood zone, you are not required to get flood insurance. So a lot of the times that when hurricanes come in, they make new flood zones. So I'm always telling people, I'm in Houston, obviously. I always tell people all the properties I have owned and I currently own, I have flood insurance. And,
Yeah.
and none of my properties are in a flood zone. But, it's just, I don't want to be left out hanging, to my insurance company. I don't want them to pull that, oh, you're not in a flood zone, we don't cover flood situation, because that happens all the time. So,
Yeah,
good points there.
it's gonna get more expensive. And then one last thing to touch on that too, because there's other people saying, Southwest Florida real estate market's just gonna skyrocket. And I'm looking at like, well, a lot of these houses have to be completely, if you're not going to completely level them, they actually have, there's something called FEMA 50/50 where they'll have to, if you're improving that property up to, more than 50% of its value, then you have to bring it up to code. So then you're looking at this house that you actually have to raise up. And if it's on a monolithic slab, you're not going to be able to raise that house up. So people are going to be in this situation where they're not even going to be able to get their property back up to a certain standard of living without hitting that 50% threshold, which, I don't know the devastation it's going to have on a lot of houses that went under. And there's a lot of houses that went underwater, man.
And man, I mean, you don't, unfortunately, a lot of people don't know until they know, like I happen to go through the situation. I know how vital the flood is. I know how to just leave, evacuate, right? The devastation of water, man. I mean, it's like, it's unstoppable. It's unstoppable. I remember rivers going through neighborhoods and intersections that I was used to driving down to get to work, a flooding river. I mean, it changed my soul, man. It changed my core being. But here, last question, brother. And I know, we're running a little bit long here, but can you touch in, because you're on ground zero, know a lot about real estate. Obviously, you're brilliant when it comes to the trends, when it comes to kind of what's going to happen next. Now, obviously, we don't have a crystal ball, Steve. No one logical will say that. But can you explain to the viewers, maybe people from Florida, how do people start rebuilding right now?
It sucks for a lot of people because they're displaced. So you have people that still have to pay a mortgage on their house. Yeah. And now they have to go and pay rent and hoping that they can have FEMA help them out or their insurance company for rental assistance or whatever the case is. So it's tough, but I mean, I would just say kind of like one house, one situation at a time in terms of rebuilding. There's, it's kind of just day by day for that individual. Not, we are, we know a lot of people here in Southwest Florida, and we're, it's everybody has a story of what they're going through. And, some people lost everything, not just their house, but like all their personal belongings and everything that they've ever owned. And, unfortunately, I think just some people are just going to get out of town altogether. And, but I'm just, I don't think there's a right answer for this, but like one day at a time for every individual person and helping people make certain decisions, or help guide certain people that have no clue on what to do next. It's, let me just touch on this. When we were going into houses and helping people out, they're in complete shock. They're we're going into houses that are flooded up over my head, and we're trying to help them move moldy furniture out of their house. And they're like, no, what are you doing? And I'm like, it all has to come out. And it's heartbreaking.
It's heavy. It's heavy, bro. It's heavy. I mean, it's heavy. So, in other words, the best, basically what you're saying is the best to people's ability to slow down, take it a day at a time. Obviously it's overwhelming. Try not to get so overwhelmed. And if you do, help someone, right? There's a lot of people that need help. If you need to get it into a different mindset out of your head, go help someone else, right? Help someone that's in even more need than you. So, great answer, Steve. Definitely appreciate you coming on the show, brother. Sorry I can't be out there to help you. And, I'll let you go. But before we go, is there any parting words that you would like to say to our viewers?
Yeah. I just want to thank everybody, even on my channel, the amount of support and emails and phone calls. We've had people that literally came from other states because they heard about through our channel as well. And they were coming out with literally trailers full of stuff and U-Hauls and everything else. So there's so many people that still need help. And even on my channel, on the hurricane videos that I have, we have a big list of just all different links and every place that you could possibly donate or go and help out because a lot of people need help. But I just want to thank everybody for all the support because, without people, and like Travis was saying, without the volunteers, we wouldn't be where we're at today. There's no doubt about it.
100%, man. So definitely appreciate you being on today, Steve. Sit tight with me, okay?
Thanks a lot, Travis.
All right, guys, go to Steve's channel, show him some love. His recent videos have those links if you guys want to send some donations or help out with the recovery efforts in Florida after hurricane. And other than that, guys, if you're out there investing in real estate, you know I wish you luck, and I hope you win.